Welcome to the Elevating IT podcast. I'm Mike Brooks here with Frank DeBenedetto from Audit. What's up, Frank?
How was your week, Mike?
It was a pretty good week. It was slow getting through the first couple days because I had my second COVID shot.
That's right.
So
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling better now. Like the first couple of days of the week was not feeling great. Like, I didn't have a fever or anything, but I just felt tired. Like, you know how you feel when that cold is coming on, like when you're getting sick, and something's coming on, your body's aching, you're just run down. You can't like concentrate on everything. That was like for like 2 days, and then it got better. So,
well, glad you're ready. Any tips and tricks for those of us heading into the second shots? Drink water, vitamin C. Did you do anything crazy?
I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't really have anything. I know you told me you'd heard about the vitamin C thing. I didn't have any vitamin C. I'm like, I'll be fine. And then I was,
Well, it sounds like you had a more mild reaction than some people. I've talked to a few people who really hit the skids, with a fever for a day or two. Most of it was over in 24 to 36 hours, but. Well, that's good, man. Now you're fully vaxxed, as
fully
they say.
Vaxxed. On Sunday, it will be, because it was Sunday afternoon, so this Sunday afternoon will be a solid week, and then in 2 weeks, I'm back on the road. I mean, I'm back and ready to be on the road, and then a week after that, my daughter gets hers second shot. So no, she'll get her second shot, I think, next week, and
Okay.
So as far as I'm concerned, once she gets her second shot. We're all fine here, right?
You can go back out and lick the pavement, right?
Yeah. Well, you know me, I'm going to be pretty careful. I know we're getting back out on the road, which is exciting.
Yeah.
And a little scary. Like I haven't been on the road. I forgot, how to get dressed.
Like to see real people.
Like, what are these things? Pants? Are they called pants? Is that something that... like time to ease back into reality? And you made the funny comment the other day. The last time me and you were together in person was the day before everything shut down.
Yeah, that's right.
And we went on like a shopping spree in an empty Houston airport.
Yeah. Yeah, you bought some nice threads, and I was poking fun at you because you never got a chance to wear them. So
nope.
Hope they still fit.
you looked. Frank is my fashion consultant, as well as the founder of Audit.
You gained the COVID-15, did you?
I'm sure I gained the
COVID-9 or what's it called? COVID-19.
Yeah, the belt's not going to fit anymore. The shoes aren't going to fit anymore. No, it's going to be fun. I mean, we're excited. We've got a couple things. So the first one that we're doing, so we should promote maybe a little bit of that, because it's not too late to jump into the Growth Fest is happening next week. That's the first event, MVP Growth Fest. We've had Matt Solomon on a couple times to talk about that.
Hey, before you go any further, did you see the video that Matt did
Yes.
with the Stanley Cup?
Yeah.
He's very clever. I wish you were as good as him, but you're just not. But Matt makes me laugh. If you're listening to Matt, or if someone tells Matt, I just make sure you tell him.
I did. I immediately texted Matt because I watch their videos. They watch mine. People who create content online, we watch each other. Because we want to see what each other's doing. So I pay careful attention to what Matt and other people like that are doing. And I love what Matt does. Matt's really funny. And a bunch of those guys, Dan Tomaszewski.
He's like a good, like a late night. He's like a late night talk show, like writer kind of humor, or like a Conan type of thing. Just funny little skits he does.
Well done. He's. I immediately texted him and told him I was totally jealous. I wish I thought of that. I mean, that was great. It was really funny. And funny you say that, like you make the comment that he's, thank you for the vote of confidence that he's better at content than me. I really appreciate that. Way to pump me up.
No worries, man.
I was talking to.
You got to break the person down before you pump them back up.
That's right.
Just
It
the
was
whole
funny
process.
because I was talking to somebody else he works with that knows him. I can't remember if they work together or they know him, and we were just talking about content creation. They're in that business, and Matt's name came up, and I said, yeah, I said I've taught Matt everything he knew, and she was just laughing because she knows Matt well, and I think she believed me. I was like, I'm just joking, but.
But yeah, so that's coming up. Wayne Gretzky's on that. It's gonna be a great event.
I'm gonna put this up here so folks can see this.
I'm on one of the panels with
yeah.
with a few other vendors. Should be interesting banter back and forth.
That's right. And you should go to this if you're listening to this live or watching this live. Definitely go register for this now because it's next week. I think it's it's Tuesday, so that's the 20th, and I think it starts in the afternoon, maybe just afternoon Eastern time, and goes all day. What time? Do you know what time you are speaking?
I think noon, like 12:10 or something around that time.
Are you speaking right at that spot?
Yeah, there's a couple breakouts, so I think around noontime. Yeah.
I'm looking through their thing. I don't think yet you are. You're speaking at 12:55. So I'm looking at their site here. You're at 12:55. You, Ryan Goodman from Connect Booster, and Joe Alapat. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, from Lion Cards. That's going to be a good panel.
And interestingly, I, as an MSP, use both of those guys as vendors. So I'm a client of Connect Booster and also Lion Guard.
That's awesome.
And here's another fun fact. I implemented both of those during the early part of the pandemic. Those were both tools that I looked at while I worked on my business that I saw as being able to have a big impact on our operations. And, so I'm their client.
That's awesome. That's going to be a fun conversation. I'm looking forward to that. I think that's always a great event. Matt does a great job, and the rest of those folks over there at ID Agent did fantastic work putting that together. And that video is hilarious. If you haven't seen the video that Frank is talking about with the Stanley Cup, go to Matt Solomon's Facebook and LinkedIn page. I believe you'll see it. And then the other event we're going to be doing right after that, early May, is we're sponsoring GlueX. That's our first time sponsoring GlueX, so we're excited about that too. And we're a platinum sponsor at GlueX.
And that's probably probably one of the last virtual events we're going to do, right? Because then we hit the actual road.
Then we hit the road. We'll be at boot camp in the next week or two later. That's actually a hybrid event, so that's virtual and live. And I think we're going to see that a lot. I think they're going to the bigger events like that are probably going to have a virtual component to it because, some people, I know I've talked to a bunch of people who just aren't comfortable getting back on the road yet. We're doing pretty good here in the United States as far as vaccines, but in other parts of the world, they're not so much. I know Canada's having a lot of people up there are struggling to get vaccines. So, and then there's restrictions, right? Each country has different restrictions. So it brings a big challenge. I think that's going to be with us for a long time. So there will be the virtual component. And if you're not going to boot camp and you want, I'm sure we have tickets for these events. I don't know. I know we have some tickets that we can give away for boot camp. So if you're not going to boot camp and you want to, send me an email or make a comment on this post. Be happy to hook you up. And that's pretty much it. Then we're off to the races. We've got all sorts of virtual and live events coming up for the rest of the year.
Absolutely.
Cool. So, I actually teased this a little bit on social media. I wanted to chat with you about this and get your take on it. I kind of, I kind of said on LinkedIn, hey, come see my horrible train wreck of a mistake that I made. I may have embellished a little bit. When you're having conversations with clients, sometimes they can go off the rails, especially depending on what the situation is. Like if somebody's upset. And this client called me, said I was condescending. So I thought I would share that.
Did you speak to them, or was this an email?
An email. This was through a chat. And you know the deal. Like when you're talking through chat, everything gets missed. And that was one of the things I thought. I hate airing dirty laundry, but hey, if there's a lesson in anything, I figured I'd share it.
But that's an important point to make, though, is that a lot of us gravitate towards the chat sessions or emails because it's quick and easy. But I find there's a much higher possibility that, you know, your comments are taken out of context, or the tone is inferred differently, and then people think. So that's always the challenge. I mean, I train, you know, my staff really to pick up the phone first and to follow up, you know, via the ticket or, you know, email second. Like that's good for,
Sure.
you know, for just confirming stuff. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it was, and this is for a client that canceled. Believe it or not, and I hate to admit this, we have clients that sometimes stop being clients. Every company does, right?
Yeah.
But what I try and do, of course, is I want to engage people for a couple of reasons. You know, I want to find out what they like and what they don't like, because that's how we improve. You know, we are serious about client feedback. We want to hear it. And sometimes people give us great pieces of advice or things, not necessarily advice, but, you know, they may want something that audit doesn't do. And we may think it's a good idea. Sometimes it's something that we can't add just because it's, you know, it's not realistic. But sometimes these things are good feedback and we want to note it. So I always want to engage people. Now the challenge becomes a lot of times when people cancel, they just want to tell you, they just want to shut it off and move on. They feel funny about talking to you about it. Sometimes there's emotion tied to that. You know, they feel bad that they're canceling sometimes, so they don't want to hurt your feelings as the provider. So they sometimes want to turn it off without telling you, right? And I've found over the years that unless I have a little, I don't want to say bite to it, but you know, I have to ask a question the right way to get them to talk to me. Mm-hmm. If I say, you know, and at that point you can do two things. You can say, hey, thank you for being a customer, and just, yeah, I'll shut you off. But of course, I want to get the feedback. And then the other thing is, you know,
hey, can I jump in though real quick? Because
yeah,
and kudos to you for not just doing that, because I've seen two like very specific scenarios pop up, right? Where one is where you've actually asked the right questions and somebody decided to stay and it inspired them to use the system.
Right.
And they come racing back and they're like, oh my God, and thank God you talked me out of it. So I guess the point here is that this isn't always just a tactic. Like we're trying to save the few dollars a month to us, right? We're actually trying to save the MSP, right? And truly help them. Right now, not everybody's going to take you up on that offer, but I know there's been more than a handful of times where people have said, thanks for like pointing out the error of my ways. Right. And then we've had some people who have canceled and like call us at like 11:30 at night, the night before. Right. And they're panic stricken that they have some big audit to do. And they want to know like if we can turn their account back on for them right away. And we've done that. Right. I mean, they paid for it, but you know, it's kind of interesting to see that they do come back. So kudos to you for not, I guess, just allowing people just to straight up quit without at least trying to engage them in a conversation. Like you don't beat them up. I know that, but
no, you know, but sometimes I'll say things that we all do it. You know, I say things that I kind of know are pushing a little bit of a button because I want to get them to respond. And you know, I've done things where I've said, hey, have you gone out of business? I didn't do it this time, but I've said that. Oh, are you going out of business? And I know they're not. I don't say that if I think they are. I say that if I know absolutely positively know they're not, because I wouldn't want to really, you know, so if somebody's really going through a hard time. But if, you know, there's one occasion where I knew somebody, I knew their situation, I knew what they were doing, and I knew they were doing it for the wrong reason and that they didn't understand how to use the tool and how to go about it. So I made that comment, and boy, it got them talking. And we had a great conversation. We jumped on a call. We went over things. He's like, you know what? I didn't know audit did this. And it changed it. He's still a client, but it was like, you know, you have to give, sometimes I think you have to give a little tough love, a little teaspoon of medicine, right? Like you take the sugar out and give them a little medicine a little bit just to get the conversation going. Because if you just say, and the times I've done that where I would just say, you know, hey, thank you for being a client. Appreciate it. Do you have any feedback? They just, no, not really. They don't tell you the truth, or they say it's a great tool, but it's not the right tool for us. They tell you how great it is and how they're going to come back one day, but they're not telling you what they mean. And sometimes those pointed questions get them to tell you the truth. And that's ultimately what I want. I want you to tell me the honest truth. And the other thing, the reason for that is, you said it, it's not just to sell them and to talk them out of quitting because we need that nickel, right? There's a couple of reasons. Like we truly care about the MSP, about the client. Number two, I know you care because you're an MSP and this is your community. You're the founder of Audit. And what people may not realize is that I'm all, me and a couple of other ones are partners, right? You founded this. This is your baby, but it's kind of my adopted baby. Like I came in as a partner with you early, and I'm very passionate about this, not just because it's my job. Like I wouldn't be working at a company I didn't believe in the product. I quit great jobs before because I didn't believe in the product. And the reason I came to Audit is because when you showed me this, I was like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I would use this and take the verbiage out that was IT specific and use it for my other business that in a heartbeat. I would make this work. It's just such a great product. So with that said, let me share with you the comment, and you'll know exactly why it got me going. Like this is the comment that always gets me going, right? They go through the process, and the chat bot actually asks you questions. And the final question is, hey, while I'm trying to get a person, what can you tell me why you canceled? And they said they don't use the tool, it costs too much. So right there, I've got to kind of take a deep breath, because here's the thing. Like if you don't use something, of course it does. Of course it costs too much. So I went into their account and I looked at it. Sure enough, they barely use it. They're not doing much of anything with it. So, I made that comment back. I said, hey, let's see what I said. I said, basically, hey, sorry to hear that. Anything that you're not using costs too much. Can I ask why you didn't use it? And then what I do is I pepper it in with things that we hear all the time. And I said, everyone who uses it tells me that it pays for itself and then some. We hear that all the time. You hear that, I hear that, where somebody's on a trial and they're super excited. They're like, I just paid for Audit for the next 3 years and I haven't even paid for it yet. So that was it. Hey, thanks for canceling. I always find your comments condescending.
So let me jump in on a couple things, just some general comments. First of all, I completely respect, if somebody decides not to use a tool. It happens. There's tools that I've canceled, that I've used at one point or another. I could say I probably have used the tool though, right? So typically I'm pretty methodical and calculated. So if I'm going to buy something, I'm going to use it. And if I change it, it has probably only been because there was something else better out there, right? So so it does happen, but I respect it, and I think there's a couple things at play here. Well, you think about a gym membership, like people who quit the gym memberships, right? A lot of times they don't quit right away because they feel guilty about it, right? Because they know they should go to the gym.
Right.
So you keep paying for the membership. And then eventually you finally say, this is ridiculous. I've spent $1,000 and I don't go. So you quit and you want to get in and out quickly because you don't want the guy to remind you that you should be going to the gym. Like that's good for you, right? It's healthy. So it's like a painful reminder. It's like why people don't want to go to the doctor. They want to hear the doctor say, lose weight, quit smoking, whatever it is, right? So you sort of avoid the confrontation, which I believe is what's at play here. A lot of times when someone just wants to cancel, they don't really want you to remind them, hey, this is actually good for you. But what's interesting, if you decide, hey, you're not going to work out, that's fine. There's plenty of people who don't go to a gym, right? And they're just fine, right? They live their life. We don't shame them. You don't even know they don't go to the gym. Who cares? But from a business perspective, there's certain activities, right, that you need to have to survive as a business, right? And one of those that you can't avoid is selling. Right. I mean, you can avoid marketing, right? I mean, we know there's MSPs out there who don't market, that still sell, right? They get referrals and they figure it out. Maybe, we could argue, hey, they would do a lot better if they were marketing, but there are certain things in your business you could decide not to do, right? Maybe you don't track your technician's utilization, right? And there's up to a certain level, you could probably get away with that, right? So if you were buying software to track that and you said, I'm not going to use it, it's not going to really have an impact. But what you'll never do is you'll never convince me that as an MSP, you don't sell,
right?
Or you don't have a need to sell, right? And I think that what happens sometimes is, even though this is so simple to use, right? There are MSPs who have convinced themselves that this is so simple that it can't work. And they've convinced themselves so quickly that they don't even try it, right? So and we've had people who said, you know what, and they go and use it and they're like, holy crap, this worked so well, right? And this is what I talk about. And I talk about this, and when we do our presentations, I talk about just the ease of doing this. And you're not changing a whole lot of what you do before it, right? So you still go use all your same tool stack. You go do your discovery mostly the same way. Like, we teach a little differently because, you got to ask some probe questions. But at the end of the day, this is all about how you package your presentation up and how you present it to the prospect, right? And so you're never not selling. So if you've never used audit and you canceled, well, that's one of those ways you're going to lose money, right? Like the only way you could lose money with using our tool is if you don't use it, number one, right? And when we take a look at the other aspect of it, a lot of MSPs don't do business reviews, right? And that's the other perfect place for this to work, especially if you brought a prospect in with audit and then you continue to use the audit report for the QBRs, right? Or business reviews, whatever frequency you did them. And if you're not doing business reviews, right? And I find we've interviewed enough MSPs, right? And I have enough peers that I know the two reasons why they don't do business reviews, right? Is number one, they don't have a process to follow, and it's a pain in the butt. And they're so focused on bringing in new business that they don't have time to pay attention to the existing business, right? And a lot of times that business starts to churn because you're not paying attention. So it's because the process, it feels so, you're like, oh man, I got to do ticket reports and it's going to take me hours to put something together. I don't have time for that. I'm trying to do tech work and I'm trying to sell new stuff. So that's one, right? And then the other one is that you've tried to do some business reviews and your clients were miserable, right? And they don't want to meet with you during a business review because they know you're going to come in and bore them to tears with some, tech-laden reporting, and then you're going to try to sell something to them, right? So they don't want to necessarily meet with you. So there you have one half of the equation of what audit is perfect for. Maybe you don't do business reviews at all, right? And then the other half is, hey, you have to sell something at some time. And what I would say is that we as an MSP have an obligation. I just had a prospect call earlier today, and she's like, we have an MSP. We're looking at, I hear it's the same stuff. Like, I let them talk. She tells me the same things, and I said something to her that I always say, but it was kind of fun to hear her explanation back. I said to her, I'd love to just give you a proposal. I said, but I really can't do that unless I understand what you have. She's like, yeah. And I said, but more importantly, until you understand what you have. And that opened the floodgates. And she's like, you're so right. She's like, we're not quite sure what we have or won't have. So I said, so let me explain my process. I said, I would come in there, I would sell you an audit, right? So I gave her the price. And I said, if you use us, we'll credit you back. If you don't, then you're going to get something of value. I said, I'm willing to bet no one has ever come in there and done any type of assessment that you have as a starting point. She's like, you're absolutely right. And I said, I bet you the other MSPs that you speak to are going to tell you, yeah, we'll come in and do an assessment. And I said, I bet you they just bring you a proposal. And she's like, oh, interesting. So I wanted to plant the seed in her head what they're going to see, right?
Right.
And what I'm doing is I'm setting myself up to be a differentiator here. And I told her, I said, we're only going to find one of three things. I said, I'm just going to tell you what the outcome is going to be right now. I said, number one, your current MSP might be doing a great job. And I said, if there's only a small difference between what I could do and what they're doing. I'll point a few things out, but I'm going to tell you to go back to them and just have them button some things up for you and stay exactly where you are. And I said, the other thing that could happen though, I said, you may not be getting what you're paying for. And that's when she perked right up. She goes, that's what I think's happening. We're spending a bunch of money and I don't know if I'm getting what I'm paying for. I said, could be. And I said, other times, I said, you might be getting exactly what you're paying for. You may just not be paying enough. So I framed out the three things that could happen for them. And again, the reason why I'm telling the story is because I'm going to use audit, right? It's so simple to show this. And I know what my peers are going to do. They're still going to do a quote unquote assessment, but they're going to hit her with a proposal, right? And I am going to be a differentiator. So I would say to people who sign up for audit, why wouldn't you use this, right? And try it. If you make one sale, right? One sale. Let's even say it's $1,000 of MRR a month, which is a smaller deal, right? What you net on that more than pays for audit forever, right? So it means you use it once, sell one small deal, and this will never cost you a single dime, right? So why would you stop using it or quit? So I think that's kind of where your point goes. So the only way you lose money is if you just never use it, right? Because of course it's just costing you money, right? And we don't want you to stay a customer if you're not going to use it. That is crazy, right? It's just like not going to the gym. Right. But we don't want you to go either because frankly, we're in this because we love the feedback and the testimonials, right? And if all you're going to do is contribute money to us and never actually be able to go out there and elevate the quality of IT with the tool, then we'd probably prefer you moved on. But I don't know what you can't convince me you're not going to sell, right? So, I wish somebody would say, hey, I found a better way to sell. And I'd say, fair enough, but yeah. In any event, I'm pretty passionate about it because I've had such great success. And, over 4 years now, we've had so many MSPs use this and we've had such great testimonials and they're constantly coming in. Like people are always popping up, telling us their stories. And it's so cool to see the ease of selling. The other thing that I think also happens sometimes is that somebody decides to sign up because they have an audit to run, right? And they say, oh, I've got this assessment coming up. I'm going to sign up for it. And then they feel like they've used the tool one time and now they don't need the tool anymore. Like it's, oh, I don't really use it, right? And that's perception based. And again, I don't know, do you only sell one deal a year? Probably not, right? So that's where I say, hey, you need to be doing business reviews with this then, right? Because I can guarantee whatever process you're probably following is laborious for you and even more laborious for your client. And all you have to do is see what you upsell and cross-sell, right?
Yeah.
You should be increasing your MRR every month, even if you haven't brought a new client on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I just heard that today. I just heard from our friend Ty Rumstadt in California. He's like, I just did a bunch of other business reviews, just keep making money.
Yeah.
He basically gave he wanted to tell me, to basically thank me and thank audit. Not me, but he said thank you to audit, and that he's laughing, because it's every time he goes out and does a business review, he's coming back with more revenue. So it's pretty cool.
And you know who else loves this? The vendors love it. The channel only vendors love this because the channel only vendors teach MSPs mostly about their product, but they assume that you can sell, right? So this provides a really easy tool for a vendor to help get you to sell their stuff, right? So you talk about, and here's a distinction, right? So, I could buy something for $1 and sell it for $2, right? So whatever that might be, we'll say dark web monitoring, right? Our friends at ID Agent. So, it costs more than $1, but I'm keeping the math simple, right? I can't buy it for $1 and sell it for $100, right? Because the market probably won't bear that out, right? So there's a finite amount of money that I can reasonably expect to resell and to make when I'm reselling a vendor's tool. So it could be a service, it could be a product, whatever it is. But then there's also tools we will say Connect Booster and Lion Guard, right? I don't resell either of those, right? Those are tools that you could say are an expense to my business. However, they improve my operations a lot. So, you might not be able to exactly measure that, but there is some measurable impact to my business. Hey, I don't have to hire another bookkeeper because I have this tool that doesn't call out sick and works on Sundays, right? Or I have this tool that makes the text this much faster and saves them an hour a day, and I could do some fuzzy math and come up with some number, right? So even though I don't resell it, it's still good for my business. But then a tool like audit comes around every once in a while, right? And the sky's the limit, right? So you pay, I don't know, $300 a month. And then, 1 month you make $3,000 a month. The next month you add another two. Now you're up to $5,000. After a year, maybe you've added $15,000, $20,000 a month in recurring revenue by using a $300 tool, right? Why would you ever cancel it? To save $300? Your MRR, your MRR, or your net is an additional $300, right? So I think that's probably how you're thinking of things, right? When you're like, why would you quit?
It's crazy.
And one thing is, I think I would love to know our statistic. Nobody quits who's using the tool.
No, it's always people who, and usually I see the same thing. And it's funny because I get the too expensive, costs too much comments from people who never use it. Like, of course it's too expensive if you don't use it. Rarely, it's always tied to usage. And I get it, if you're not using it, it is too expensive, right? But it's, it always sets me off a little bit. Like, when they're trying to give me feedback on helping me to lower the price for something that they've never really used. It's like, well, nobody ever tells me it doesn't work. And this person kind of alluded to that they didn't need it because they were already closing all their sales. And, as you start to peel back the onion, what you see is that they're basically competing on price. They're the lowest priced guy. They're closing all the deals, but they're the lowest priced guy. They're probably maybe partially break fix. Of course, you don't need a tool that's going, that audit is designed to help get you higher level revenue, not be the break fix guy.
I had a conversation with a giant in this industry, just very well versed and knowledgeable. And we were talking about different products, and we were talking about MSPs and the comments that they make, and sometimes the complaints, right? And we were talking about RMM, and we were saying how like an RMM tool is like 8 tools in one, right? And how there was an MSP and they were complaining about like what it did. And then he brought up an interesting point. He said, like, what do you spend a month or a year on your RMM tool, right? Like, maybe you spend $12,000 a year, right? He said, you're running your business. You're doing $3 million a year of revenue. This tool costs you $12,000, right? Like, what do you expect it to do, right? Like, there's limitations of what that tool would encompass and do, right? You're not spending $300,000 a year, right? If you were, that tool should do all this other stuff. But it was just an interesting, like, very blunt point. Like, at the end of the day, like, like even relate that to, it's a $300 tool, right?
Right.
It's only going to make you a ton of money, right? Of which I couldn't tell you what the cap is. But even at that level, there's some MSPs that this isn't a fit for, right? Because they look at it as an expense. And, the reality is I guess they'll sell a different way. I mean, I still think it's the best way out there. And, at the end of the day, the audit report, hands down, that format is the best report to sell off of, hands down.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. In our conversation, I'm starting to feel better that maybe I didn't, I don't know if I had picked up the phone and called him, if the conversation would have been much different. I mean, listen, right? Like, any tool you're not using is expensive. Why aren't you using it? Right. That's the point trying to get to is, but interesting stuff. And I put you on your soapbox a little. I know that's why I love talking to you about it. We're both very passionate about it. And
well, this is what I use every day. I mean, this is what I do. I mean,
I love the way you framed the that really is a unique selling proposition for you. I don't want to, reveal that to your competitors, but look at what when people, I was just talking to somebody else today who was looking for a USP for their business. It'd be great if they were watching. You know, I don't want to call out the person, but he was saying, you know, trying to put that USP together is kind of hard. What makes us unique? And that's a real differentiator that you just mentioned. It's worth repeating how you talked to that prospect, because you really shined a light on how the people who they're going to talk to other than you are going to be different. And you're right. They are going to just show up, run some stuff. Maybe they don't even talk to the people, you know, they come out, they run some tools. Then they come back with a proposal or something really confusing.
Right.
And that's how it's a great way to show. So if you're listening to this, rewind back to that. We don't rewind podcasts, right? We just move the little cursor back. That shows how old I am, right? Rewind.
I think my buddy Brian Curtis is really good at this. He has some really good like anecdotal lines that he uses with prospects. And I know he does that a lot. Like he kind of plants the seed, like, well, yeah, I'm more expensive, but here's how we're going to do it. And this is what you'll probably find others. And then we'll do. And then when the others come in, right, they do exactly what he told that prospect they're going to do. And then they're kind of like, wow, that guy was right. You know, so you could be more money, but they're going to look at you like, wow, this guy knows his stuff. And, and again, you got to stand out, right? If you're just showing up, I told her, I said, if I just give you a proposal right now, I said, only thing you're going to look at is what the bottom line numbers are, right? You're not going to understand the tech. And I said, I can't possibly spend, you know, all this time, nor do you want me to you know, to give you a PhD in IT. She's like, oh, no. But she's like, that's exactly what we're looking for, is somebody that's more of a partner in this, that understands it. So I know how to push the buttons, but, you know, we do a little future pacing. Tell them what you're going to find with others and tell them how you're going to be different. And, you know, and I was selling you know, I put up I'll call it a roadblock, but, you know, it's not a free audit. I told her, I said, look, I have to take the time to do this, put it together for you. And I said, at the end of the day, it's going to have something of value. I said, you're going to have something that you could have as a starting point to see where you're at, whether you use us or not. And that's it. You know, now she's going to have to decide if she wants to spend the money. But, you know, what could also happen is that she might go to a few others and they might just give her proposals. And I bet she's going to be wondering, like, boy, I wonder what I'd get from Two River Tech if I go back to them. And, you know, they may come to me. I may be the last guy in, right? Who knows? So, I mean, I just had the meeting today, but it's always interesting.
Well, I feel bad for your competitors having to be made a fool of when they go show them a proposal. That's great stuff. Well, that's a great place to end for today, Frank. We'll be back next week. And I'm just going to put up real quick this banner here for GlueX. So we're sponsoring GlueX as well. It's coming in 2 weeks, gluex.co. Make sure you go register for that. It's an all virtual event. It's going to be great. Frank is speaking, and we are a platinum sponsor for that. Excited to be able to sponsor it.
Yep.
And we will see you next week, everybody. Have a great week. And until next time, keep elevating IT.
Have a great week.